I'm still eating a sweet. Damn. Hey guys, welcome to episode number 12 of the Danny Batten MMA show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I'm your host, Si. Here at Ace Podcast Nation, we got podcasts, interviews, content, and all sorts of subjects from MMA, football, music, films, TV, conspiracy theories, and more. Crazy times in 2020 as we deal with a worldwide pandemic, a virus which is shutting down countries all over the world. It's a weird. We've never had to deal with anything like it before, but hopefully we can take your minds off it momentarily for an hour or so. Today we'll be talking about what turned out to be a very entertaining and interesting Cage Warriors show from Friday night. It was really good, and I think if the fans had been there, it would have been absolutely electric because it was an excellent show, full of good fights. We're going to talk the last few fights of the prelims. We're also going to talk the main card. Obviously, firstly, I'd like to just a bit of an apology, really. We were going to do the watch along Friday, the live watch along as planned. Everything was set. We were ready to go. But about a couple of hours before we were due to start, obviously the government shut down all the gyms and the pubs and the restaurants and everything like this, which obviously affects Danny massively in his day-to-day life and work, which meant he was left to obviously close down his gym and answer queries and questions of all the members and the fighters, which meant we were unable to do the show. Very disappointing for us and you guys, but we'll definitely be doing that in the future. Something we're very excited to do. So take it in a new direction, as doing some live shows as well as the review shows. Over the next couple of weeks, obviously, months, possibly, it's very strange. There's a lot of people are going to be working from home. A lot of people are going to be at home. The way we do our podcasts, we're able to keep going because we don't do them in person. We do them remotely. So we here at Ace Podcast Nation and the Danny Batten Show will be carrying on. We'll be doing lots of shows, pumping out content, shows, interviews, lots of stuff. Got live shows every Monday with the Andy Campbell Show. We've got huge guests lined up for the shows going forward, returning series and new series. So as I say, Mondays, 7:30, live Andy Campbell Show. We'll be talking football with former Premier League striker Andy Campbell. I'm recording a brand new episode of a series called The Boot and the Limp, which is myself and stand-up comic and MMA medic Barry Phillips, where we'll be just basically taking a light-hearted look at everything going on in the world, from TV to sport to the news to celebrities, whatever it may be, whatever it comes up, we'll just talk and take a light-hearted and uncensored look at it. It probably won't be suitable for under 18s, but it should be fun and it'll be entertaining because people have seen the show I did with Barry previously. We got on like a house on fire, but he is a very, very funny man. And I'm really looking forward to that. Just, again, to take our minds off the coronavirus. And, that's the one thing we will not talk about is that. So we got that. This Friday, that'll be episode 1 we'll be dropping. Also this week, we'll be dropping My Story episode 2 with Reese Weston, as well as we've got this show and some other stuff. But with no further ado, I'll introduce my co-host, Brum, providing the expert analysis on all things MMA and boxing as we cover all sorts of combat sports on this show, is Mr. Danny Batten, former Cage Warriors champion. How are you, my friend?
I'm good, Si, as best as I can be after what you've just explained had happened on the Friday. It was inevitable, so not really surprised. It's just a case of when. But we're willing to go through it to keep the country safe and get over this. And to get over this, we have to do it together. So we're in total agreement to be part of the process to lock down as much as we can to keep everyone safe.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because it's, I guess, not just with you guys, but with also like pubs, restaurants. It's their livelihoods. They want to stay open. They almost caught between it where they want to stay open because it's their livelihood, but they also want to keep people safe. and then when you get word that you have to close, then that's it. You have to close.
Yeah.
What was that like when you first found out? I'm assuming you were at the gym and you got word that it had to close.
Yeah, I was driving to the gym and I was listening to the news, literally on the way, and then I heard that they had announced that from midnight all gyms and leisure centres are added to the list of closures. I was just like, oh wow, I just can imagine what it was going to be like when I turned up at work, and that's going to be the phone going, messages galore, and it was just that the phone didn't stop going on the reception, and the messages started coming on the phone through WhatsApp, normal messaging, through Facebook. It was just from all angles. Obviously, people asking questions on when it says all gyms, does it literally mean all gyms? And yes, it does mean all gyms. So yeah, it was a little bit harsh, saddening, but we're not going to let it get us down. We're going to just do what needs to be done. What more can you do? You just take day by day, week by week, and so on. You've got to get through this.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Because like I'm sure, especially for the professional fighters and the amateurs who are looking towards going professional, they want to keep training, they want to keep going and doing things, but you can't. I'm sure they'll all keep fit themselves and they'll have their own personal regimes and things like that. But it's just unfortunately one of those things. I noticed that when the UFC cancelled all their upcoming shows, they were very careful to say that the Khabib versus Tony Ferguson fight is on. It is staying on, even if that means they have to change the venue and the country. I was interested by that. Like, whilst I understand they're desperate to get that fight on because it's been cancelled so many times, I do get that. But I was interested in that when they said about moving countries, because as far as I'm aware, flights in and out of the US are pretty much on lockdown. I can't imagine that it's going to get that much better before that fight's on.
I don't know.
So
I mean, if they want to make the fight happen, no matter what, however, that they will manage it somehow. But I just think that they're just trying to show that they're willing to do it no matter what, even if it did mean another country, if it takes as big as move as that. How they would pull that off, I don't know. But I just think they know that if this fight don't happen now, this fight's never going to happen.
No.
Because my goodness, it's been set up so many times, and there's always weird things that happen. Oh, absolutely. And now we got this. Not to say that the corona's anything to do with the reasoning why that fight ain't happening again. I mean, it's not the cause of it, of course, but whatever. I just want to see that fight no matter what. I'll be happy to watch it. It's going to be a good one. I'm glad that they're pushing to keep it to go ahead.
It's interesting. Dig, one of the things which I found fascinating was following the news. I was really following the UFC stuff closely because they UFC and I think some kind of wrestling shows. They were like the last, and Cage Warriors. They were the last live events or sports that was sort of standing. Everything had been cancelled and stopped. It was just them. And I know because UFC have got their own performance center. They called the Apex. They were planned, they do shows from there already. This is set up to do shows as well as being a training facility. They do the Contender series from there, for instance. So first of all, they were going to do the shows from there, the upcoming shows. But then they said, you couldn't only have up to 50 people, at the place. So they were going to move it to an Indian. No, sorry, I apologize. Then the place, I think it's Vegas, where the Apex is. They closed down everything, so they were not able to do it there. Then eventually they plan to do it on an Indian reservation somewhere, which obviously has no kind of
have different laws, don't they?
There's no regulations, there's no laws in terms of like the governing bodies and stuff like that. But then Donald Trump, I think it was, said that you can't have more than 10 people, in a place. Which, that puts the kibosh on that, really, doesn't it? Yeah, because when you've got the fighters and you've got the productions, you've got to have even the minimal amount of fight, even if you just had the fighters with no trainers, and even you've got to have a certain amount of production staff and commentators, and it's just impossible. But it was fascinating to watch because they were clearly desperate to work something out, and the length they were going to work something out, but they just couldn't do it. And I mean, that goes to show how well and how much credit Cage Warriors deserve for getting this show on and keeping it on. Obviously, it was initially in London. They moved it to Manchester. I know there is some of the guys from the UFC London show were trying to get on this show. I know, for instance, Oban Elliott was supposed to be fighting on a Cage Warriors Academy show next week or the week after, Cage Warriors Academy in Wales. He was main eventing that. It was kind of like if he won that fight, he was probably going to be pushed right up to the top towards the, the kind of top 5 fighters looking to get him towards a title shot towards the end of the year. So obviously it was a massive fight for him. It was his first main event. That was off. So I know they were trying to get him a fight against one of the French guys on this show, but then the French guys got turned away at customs. They came over and they got turned away at customs. So they
some people
out.
might not know, but we had messages going backwards and forwards with Cage Warriors about matching Jordan. But it'll be one of the French fighters. But then of course we found out that I think 2 or 3 of the fighters sent home, and so that fight was off. There was Jordan was going to be a late replacement at a catch weight, but it just didn't happen.
I mean the main card was quite a short card, really, considering some of the cards you've seen in the past, but there was still some big fights on their mind.
There were some good fights. It was a really, really good show, I've got to say.
Yeah, it was. Let's get into it because we're going to talk. We don't normally talk the prelims unless there's a specific fight that sort of catches our eye or someone who we know or not. That's what I was going to say. Obviously, Luke Shanks' title fight, got called off during the week.
Yeah.
Have you spoken to him since it got called off?
Not directly. I've seen some posts going up. But obviously, I'm gutted for the lad. I'm gutted for all of them that compete on there. But obviously, I have closer ties with Luke. I know how much he wants this, and I know how much he's ready. The timing is good. But that time is going to stay good for some while as a young lad. So he's got years behind him, or years in front of him. Sorry. But he's just going to suck it up for what it is and keep improving himself. Right now, it's just a case of at least trying to stay fit while you can't go to the gym. But this will all be behind us one day, and it'll be forgotten about in terms of the fight community, and we'll all just move on from it. But as it is right now, a bit disappointing, but
I think a lot of the big went on. It did, and I think a lot of the big fights will go, like the Luke Shanks title fight. As soon as they can put on a card, that's the sort of fight that's going to get straight. It's going to be put straight in. And I know, they've got plans, at least in terms of where they are hoping, like people like Oban Elliott or where Jordan are going to go in the next year or so. These kind of guys who are highly thought of, or who had title fights lined up, they're the guys who are going to get these slots as soon as they're able to put the shows on. It's just a case of waiting, unfortunately. Okay, so the first fight we're going to discuss was from the prelims. It was Chris Des Edwards versus James Hendon. Obviously, Chris Edwards is a highly respected Cage Warriors veteran, really. I think he's fought 16 times for Cage Warriors, which is phenomenal amount of fights, really. I got to say, obviously, as a Welshman, and I know some of the guys who train with Chris, I was rooting for him, but I was very impressed with James Hendon. I thought he showed real maturity, and he was very calm. He just every time Chris tried to instigate any sort of attack or plan, James Hendon kind of just dragged him to the ground and dominated him.
Yeah, he did. He seemed to show good technical know-how and awareness throughout, not just the fight, but no matter where it went. On the feet, he looked like he could deal with himself, but he was getting his successes when he got in the clinch and was getting him down. And because he's getting his successes there, that's where he kept taking it, and rightly so. But yeah, he looked shy. He just looked so relaxed as well for someone. I think that's his full fight as a pro. Yeah, looked really mature. Yeah, quite impressive. He's going to be one to watch if he keeps performing like that, and you can only imagine he's going to get better.
Yeah, there's certainly one to follow, isn't it? Because for someone with that little experience to fight someone who is as experienced as Chris Edwards as well, he wasn't up against someone with the same experience level. It was interesting.
It was.
So the first round began. Hendon straight away attacked with a couple of leg kicks. Edwards landed some leg kicks of his own. And it wasn't long before Hendon scored his first takedown on Edwards. He got him into a seated position. Edwards did scramble to his feet initially, but Hendon again, he had him up against the cage wall straight away, and
he kept
scored.
kicking his leg out, didn't he?
Yeah,
and it was quite good. The actual takedown was really nice as well. Chris was doing the typical experience type move to try to stop the hips coming in of Hendon by doing a knee shield. But you can go either or way when someone knee shields. You have got to have good control of the hips, which Hendon did have. You can throw them either backwards over your left shoulder, as it was for him in that situation, but he threw him towards the right, which gives you both the potential to take down and take the back, but he got the takedown with it. So that was quite a nice, show of that he had answers to the difficulty of someone knee shielding up against the fence, because the knee shield is designed to make your grip outstretched, so you either can't control the hips in the first place, or if you do, it can force the break of that control of the hips with the hands. But yeah, Hendon, like we discussed, he showed really good maturity there. He had an answer for that and everything else that Chris was throwing at him. Then we saw, the half guard becoming really popular for top position, and Hendon worked well from there. And you're right, we saw Chris do well to get back to his feet. But again, the experience, or what appeared to be experience, obviously he's quite inexperienced with the big scheme, being only his full fight. Hendon did real experienced moves, kicking out his foot to disrupt him getting upright when he did get to the feet. So although he did get up to his feet, his posture was broken forward. And when your posture's broken forward like that with body weight down on it, your own body weight and theirs, you're not exactly going to be light on your feet. He was heavy on his feet, and he kicked that foot and just kept on getting him back down. He kind of smothered him around, really.
Yeah, I thought all the way through the fight, James Hendon was very clever. He was doing these kind of very subtle leg trips where they'd be in the clinch, and it would look to the to maybe if it was a casual viewer, they'd look at it and they would think that it didn't look particularly powerful or anything like that, but it was just very subtle, taking his balance away from him, just taking a particular leg or a particular angle just to completely take his balance, take Chris Edwards' balance away from him. And Chris Edwards spent so much time trying to fight his way up that it just took a lot of his energy.
Yeah.
So whenever he was on his feet, he was drained a lot of the time because he had fought so hard to get up.
Yeah. I mean, the rounds went, heavily in Hendon's favour. You can't argue it, really. There wasn't much striking. It was mainly a case of wrestling and grappling. And he looked pretty dominant in that first round. Already, after watching that first round, I was thinking, crikey, what? Chris is going to have to come out with some new questions to pose to him, ones that you don't have any answers for. He did come out quite convincing, looking like he wanted to switch things up in that second round at the beginning, and fleetingly had Hendon's back, but Hendon with real, show of experience, which he just shouldn't really have been his fourth fight, ran to the cage. As soon as he had his back, he ran to the cage, which is exactly what you should be doing there. it makes it a lot harder for someone to work takedowns and finalise positions and escape that. Chris was left trying to press him against the fence, trying to do what he can. Actually looked quite good for him because he had both hands clasped with the under pummel of Hendon. He had it neutralised and it was looking good, but Hendon turned his hips and did like a judo throw, flipped it straight over. And again, the ground was ensuing on the ground with Hendon on top.
So you know those subtle leg trips that I was referring to. Were they with what discipline would they fall under? Would they be judo?
No, had it been like in an actual exchange of wrestling, yes. But this was this particular leg trip that he did was when he was trying to retract back up. So this is very much an MMA thing. He was trying to come up. His posture was all broken forward. And so his base was set wide, and you just kick the leg out to make it too wide that they fall back, or you use a few different directions depending on the actual clinch. But yeah, it just disrupts the base and puts them back down on the bum. Basically, there's nothing hugely technical about it. It's about having good judgment at the right time, and he was making it. And, for very little effort of just kicking out the foot, you get the guy back down to the ground again. Quite disheartening for someone to be on the receiving end. I still spar quite regularly with the young lads, and if I'm on the receiving end of the wrestling aspects, having your foot kicked out when you just try to get up, it does take so much energy. To have your foot kicked out and end up back where you started is, it's harsh.
Yeah. So the round finished as Edwards kind of got up again. Hendon had a couple of swings at him, and he gets another takedown to finish the round. He gets to the half guard as the buzzer goes. Dan, just before we go into round two, mate, do you reckon you could unplug your headphones? Because they're just they're just crackling a lot, so right. I can't. Your voice is fading in and out. It's probably like just a loose connection in the base of the thing.
I'll have to get another set. I'll try and get some wireless ones. Is that better?
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, because it's not rubbing on me.
No, I think it is just with headphones after they've, when they're a bit older or they've been used, they just crackle a lot.
Yeah, they are.
The other thing is just to unplug them and do it without. So just do it without the headphones. Yeah, it should do. Yeah, try it and see, because it should just work through the microphone of the.
Right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, that's fine.
Do you reckon that's better?
Yeah, that'll be better just for today because
right. I'll get another set.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's all right.
It was just it just I couldn't I could hear what you were saying, but there was like a background the crackling and stuff, which means
no, that's fine. They probably had their day. I didn't even know this thing had a mic, so
yeah, it'll be in the webcam. But that's okay. Right, let me just make a note of that time. What will be 24 minutes, because I'll just take out the bit where I ask you to.
I thought you were stopping for a toilet break.
No. I'm a professional. No. Right. Okay. Yeah. So I think. Did you have Hendon 10-9 in that first round?
Oh yeah, absolutely. No two ways about that.
Yeah, I got to say, I go back to those leg trips. I was just really impressed with just his calmness throughout the fight, and I found all the leg trips throughout the fight really fascinating, because they weren't like big, ginormous kind of judo throws, or like sometimes you see like the big slams down onto the floor. It was just a very subtle, like you said, disruption of his base, just to one leg, and down he went every time.
Yeah.
And it was like when he was completely helpless to stop it once because he got the timing so good, and his aim, it was so precise that once he did those little trips, Chris Edwards was down every time.
Yeah. No, it was good. It was very good.
Round two was much the same. They exchanged some leg kicks to start, and Edwards, he was trying to to push on and ask different questions, as you put it. He grabbed Hendon, he had him up against the cage, but again, Hendon scores the takedown. He gets
he
to
did
half
do a big
guard.
judo throw there. Did you see the throw he did? He completely
big
hipped
one,
off him. It was beautiful.
Technically very good. So I'm assuming he must have a pretty good judo background, judging by some of the technical things that he did, the throw, those leg trips. They seem very judo orientated to me.
Yeah, it's quite possibly so. He definitely had a good sense of taking someone's base away.
So he takes him down again, gets to half guard. He gets him with a little bit of ground and pound without really. It wasn't like a fight ending threaten in terms of the ground and pound. He tried to transition to back control. Edwards wall walks to his feet. Hendon dragged him back down to the ground, and again, this is taking so much out of Chris Edwards as he's constantly. He felt like he was constantly battling to get back to his feet, and then often on his way up to his feet, he was getting his legs taken away again.
It looks horrible for him. It looked really frustrating, but he was doing all the right things. It's like he just got put in deficit with his energy levels, and didn't have any other ways of getting up other than the basic get ups. You got to start throwing things a little bit out the box, and to do that, that does come with experience, and I know he is experienced, but some people are naturally really creative and other people are not, so they just do the bread and butter moves. He was doing very, very much bread and butter moves, and this wasn't enough to chuck at Hendon, and so we see a pattern of the performance of the first round happen in the second. He very much having all his work smothered. He looked always a tempo or two behind. Every time he'd done something, it was like he's whispering what he was going to do before he did it, and handed out an answer.
Well, when you say interested, what would you have said to him to do if you were training him in terms of thinking outside the box to try and ask different questions?
So some of the times when he was coming up, he had his posture broken forward. Sometimes when this just isn't working anymore, there's no point just keep doing the same thing, because like I say, a pattern appears, and Hendon was well prepared for it. Sometimes you have to break into a roll and maybe do a forward roll rather than just try and stand directly up. If your posture's broken forward, make something of that direction, and actually roly-poly underneath and try and create some chaos and some scramble. Yes, it goes into uncharted waters. No one really knows how it's going to fold out, but at least that puts the emphasis of chaos onto the person trying to potentially control you as well. Sometimes you just got a dive roll every now and then. Doesn't look the greatest, but it can create some things. It can get the other guy a little lost, and just reinvigorate some chances for yourself. But with the way things have happened, it was just all too predictable, the stuff he was doing. And like we say, was just not asking questions enough of Hendon. And not to take anything away from Hendon, he was hitting him with all different things, trying to take the back, trying to choke him, trying all sorts of things, ground and pounding, trying to look for submissions. He was kind of doing it all. But Chris is a experienced guy, as you know, and so he had enough to survive, but surviving ain't winning.
Yeah, and I think that's what I wanted to kind of be careful to do is, obviously, Chris struggled a bit, but I don't think we should take anything away from. I think is more about how good James Hendon was, as opposed to Chris Edwards having an off night. Yes, Chris Edwards could have done certain things differently, and he will probably feel that he's had an off night. But I do think James Hendon was very, very good. He caught the eye on a card which was full of eye-catching performances, which says a lot.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely going to be someone to look out for. His striking didn't look like anything super special. We didn't really see it get proper tested, but he usually strikes well to get into the clinch, where he's having successes. So you don't have to be the best striker in the world to be hugely successful. Look at someone like Damian Maia, who's not considered a striker, but usually strikes well to get the clinch, from the clinch to get into the positions that we know that he loves and gets many results from. So Hendon was usually striking really well with that. What will be a show of how good he really is maybe when he doesn't get his way as much and as easy as we seem to get it. When someone meets him force on force, maybe he can keep it on the feet a little bit longer, or maybe put him on his back. Let's see what he's got then. So that's what I'm kind of curious about. I'm looking forward to seeing the kid again, and he's definitely someone that I've got my eye on. Obviously, potentially he's going to be an opponent for one of my guys at some point. So yeah, I'll be making a study of him every time he competes. I'll find some holes somewhere.
Yeah, that's it. That's what you've got to do. No, you've got to find. You've got to come up with a game plan. And like you say, whilst he was impressive, you didn't really see him on his back. You didn't see him have to answer any big strikes to see, test his chin or just test his movement. So, second round, 10-9 again, Hendon.
Absolutely.
The third round begins. Edwards and Hendon exchanging some leg kicks. I thought, round 3, Chris Edwards tried to be a bit more aggressive, but he kind of had him up. Hendon grabbed Edwards and put him up against the cage wall. He scored a takedown, and then of course it's the third round. Edwards knows that he had to do something. He had to win the fight. He had to go and end the fight. So I think to be taken down early was, I could almost feel like the optimism drain from him. As a viewer, I mean, not as in anything he did, just that he went out, he knew he had to win that third round, he knew he had to finish the fight, and straight away he was taken down again. And I just thought,
he showed some fighting spirit though. He tried for that guillotine. It was never really there in any meaningful way, but he had to bite onto something, and you could tell he had, I know I've got to win this outright. And so he was trying to be aggressive with the striking. It forced Ender to go in for his shoot, and Chris Edwards did a nice sprawl, which set up that little chance at a standing guillotine. Standing guillotine slipped away from him, and then it kind of got just mauled to the ground. Nothing hugely technical about that takedown. I think it was just more of a case of fatigue on Chris Edwards' part. And we started to see him really be smothered again on the ground. He had a little punt at a leg lock as well, but it was just a fleeting one, maybe the first 2 stages of a potential 5 to try to complete it. Hendon was just way too aware. He just stepped out of it, and they're just quickly back to the feet. But you're right, Chris Edwards just looked like every second that was ticking away, you felt like, well, the potential to pull this through is just slipping away from you. You started to almost sense it in his demeanor.
When that guillotine slipped off, it
started looking really not good for him. It started looking like, well, he just wants to try to get to the end of the fight now rather than even look to win it. He gave it his all. I give him that much. He really did try, but he got taken down again, didn't he? With like a little bit of a body brace, kind of just threw him down to the ground. But he started getting his arms hooked up as well, which makes it really hard to escape.
Yeah. Once you get your arms hooked up, it's difficult to go anywhere. I did think in that third round, Hendon didn't look so much like he was looking to finish the fight. Like in the first couple of rounds, I did feel like he was looking to get his back and he was looking to get the submission. Whereas in the third round, I felt like he was quite happy to lock him up and get him.
I totally agree with that. He knew he was ahead. He didn't have to do anything brash. And I think as well, when he shot in and Chris fought it a little bit, he sprawled him and had that guillotine attempt. I think that just took that extra little bit out of Hendon. Started to see a little bit of fatigue set in for him as well. Because Chris Edwards, give it to him, he didn't stop moving, didn't stop trying to get to his feet. So although he was on the receiving end, he was never someone accepting to be prey. He was constantly trying, and it did wear on the attacker. So you're right. We saw less that he was hunting to put it away and was more content to just stay ahead, which again is another experienced move. Some of these young fighters are so keen to add something to their highlight reel that they end up making a mistake and can throw it all away. There was no such sense in Hendon's game. he was like, no, I'm just going to keep dominating. I'm going to keep performing well. I know I'm ahead. And he was willing to take it all the way to the finish line rather than just an outright finish.
Yes, yeah, indeed. So the fight finished, James Hendon won by unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-26, 30-25.
Yeah.
Which was interesting to get three different scores
Yeah.
from the judges. But I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was, 10-9, 10-9, 10-9, I got to be honest. But
yeah, you would think there would have to be some kind of like, domination with the strikes in a more meaningful way to have perhaps scored it any heavier than that.
I didn't, like, two of those judges have given a 10-8, and I didn't think that there was a 10-8 there, I got to say.
No, not quite. It wasn't like outright mounted positions or outright back take positions for long durations. There was half guard. It was a case of half guard and then maybe a little fleeting side control along with, Chris constantly trying to scramble up. So yeah, okay, he was never really in a position to attack very much at all and was on the receiving end of things. But I would imagine for a 10-8 score, it'd have to be dominant in all areas, on the feet, takedown, ground with submission attempts and ground and pound, and some kind of visual damage as well. Some of those elements weren't there to score it a 10-8 in my opinion.
No, I agree as well. Next up was Jamie Richardson versus Matthew Bonner. What did you think of this fight, mate?
Yeah, this one I enjoyed. Yeah, it looked very much like one wanted it on the ground and one wanted it on the feet. That's how it initially started, and I think they can always, always be good viewing, especially when someone's so intent on the feet. And we definitely saw some intentness there. He always wants to start fast. We have seen him gas before in previous fights where he goes toe to toe. And I thought we might start seeing that a little bit. I mean, I think we did see him gas a little bit in here. That Matthew Bonner had some cardio about him. Although he did look tired, he seemed to be recovering quicker than Jamie Richardson. But Jamie Richardson come out headhunting, and that's always going to make good viewing spectacle. And for that aspect, I really enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to see this go through many rounds. I thought, this could be over in one or two rounds, but we ended up with an entertaining fight on our hands.
Yeah, it was good. Jamie Richardson went looking for the win early, obviously.
Yeah.
And then as that first round progressed and he started to tire a little bit, I thought, maybe Matthew Bonner is going to finish it himself. In the second round, and like you say, it ended up going the full three. So the round began with. Go on.
The one thing, sorry, that do you remember as well? Like when he got Richardson got taken down, you see him like wincing as well. This is something that the commentators picked up on, and I thought he had hurt himself. I thought he'd done his back or his arm or his knee or something had gone. But
as he, I thought he'd hurt himself as he went down, like he landed awkward or something.
Yeah, and he really winced, and that happened numerous times with takedowns that happened to him. But it appeared that there was nothing wrong other than being very expressionative about being disappointed and angry and upset at himself. So something normally people are quite poker faced, aren't they?
Yeah.
You might get expression of being tired written all over the face, but very rarely hurt in that way. It was like he was hurt at the disappointment of being taken down. So that was kind of interesting.
It's unusual though, isn't it? To see fighters show any kind of pain or anything, like, because they don't want to give anything away or give any kind of hint to their opponent that they may be hurt or struggling.
But one thing I noticed as well, that Matthew Bonner, he shot in for a single leg grab with his head to the outside. That can come with some difficulties. When you shoot for the single leg pick up with your head on the outside, you lose some of your action to hit a single leg takedown, because normally it's considered better, I would suggest, to pick up a single with your head on the inside and then you throw your head to the outside to get some whip and to get some run at that single leg. But he was shooting with his head to the outside, which can get your head stuffed. You're left nowhere to transition to. So, if you're shooting with a single leg with your head on the outside and they get a hand blocking on the head, you can't come up to the pack. You can't run back into a double. You kind of you have to kind of let go really, or muscle it out. He did actually muscle Richardson down because I think he was fresh enough to do so. But it just surprised me at their choice for him to shoot with his head on the outside on that single. So it was a little observation that I had, but I was quite surprised with. But he got his successes from it. Partly because Richardson didn't capitalise on the fact that his head was going to the outside, and allowed Matthew Bonner to be more successful than I think he should have been.
Yeah, they as I said, Richardson was looking for that early win, or that early highlight reel or knockout, as it were.
Yeah.
It didn't take too long before Bonner was looking for the takedown in response to that.
Yeah.
Kind of had Richardson against the cage. They separated. They swung at each other. Then Bonner gets that takedown, and he gets the open guard. But Richardson, I thought he did well. He scrambled to his feet. Bonner dragged him back down to the ground again and got him. I can't remember if he got. In my notes, I put he got back control, but I don't think he got
not properly.
not full back control from memory.
Yeah.
Again, he was. Richardson was scrambling, and he scrambles to his feet. He takes a big swing at Bonner. Bonner again. It was almost like you had Richardson was trying to get to his feet to keep it on his feet and go for the kind of the strikes, and Bonner was doing everything he could to take it to the ground. It was fascinating to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a good active round. And then to finish off that round in all strange conundrums, with Richardson looking like he wanted to put it away on the feet in some aspects, he ended up catching a kick and throwing some punches and getting Matthew Bonner off balance, and they tumbled to the ground. And Richards must have felt that Bonner was feeling a bit fatigued. He felt comfortable to just work in his guard and get some more ground and pound and some score off. And then in the final seconds of the round, had him in a turtle position, throwing strikes, looking really, really quite dominant to finish the round. Yeah. And you've got to give it Richards on aggression in that round.
Yeah, I had a 10-9 Richardson. I
Absolutely.
I think the big difference was the aggression. At the start and at the end of the round, particularly.
Yeah. Bonner had his chances in the middle, but didn't make anything of it other than forcing Richards to be defensive on defending the takedown. And he had his little moment there, but wasn't really productive with it. All the production in terms of aggression and effective aggression was on the side of Richards.
Yeah, even when Bonner got him to the ground, he didn't really control him that well, and he didn't keep him down for too long at any point, really. Round two begins. They exchange a couple of jabs. Bonner grabs at Richardson and he gets him against the cage wall. He scores the takedown. Richardson scrambles back to his feet, which is, I must have written that about 20 million times during this fight. Bonner scores a takedown and then Richardson scrambled to his feet. But it shows that I think it also shows that Richardson was very aware that he didn't want to get stuck on the ground with Bonner. He was aware of his capabilities.
Yeah, Bonner could have chose better ways of trying to control Richards on the ground. He allowed him way too much freedom and space to come up. He wasn't being tight with his positioning. And good job it went to the ground, because just before it went to the ground, Richards caught him with a really big left overshot, and really started finding Bonner's face clean. And then when they did get back to the feet, Richards was on the hunt again, completely head hunting. He did dig in some nice body shots as well, but none of them seemed to be overly consequential to Matthew Bonner. He looks like a well-conditioned athlete, so he took them well. So Richard goes straight, head hunting again. But then Matthew Bonner started getting successes of his own, didn't he? Around about 3 minute mark in the second round, he started throwing really long straights. I think he had a longer reach. And it started to really show. And we actually see him getting success and getting some confidence. And I was thinking, oh, right, we're going to get a little bit of a war on the feet. And we did get a little bit of a war on the feet. I started to really, really lapping it up. It was a great little toe-to-toe fight. But coming up to that halfway mark, Richards kicks his leg out and gets it to the ground again. And Richards started, I think, to realise it was perhaps less hard work to be on the ground on top than it was to be striking toe-to-toe with someone with a longer reach, even though Richards, I would say, is the better pedigree striker. Bonner could show that he could be problematic to the old cardio tank to keep it on the feet for too long.
Yeah, and he Richardson scored that takedown and he got into half guard. Bonner quickly gets Richardson into his full guard, but then Richardson returns. Like they exchanged, they kind of moved around a bit and exchanged without doing a great deal. Towards the end of the fight, the end of the round, Richardson returns to half guard while attacking Bonner with some bit of ground and pound, and the round finishes with Richardson attacking with some more strikes.
He looked really convincing at the end of that second round, like he did the first round. Started looking really dominant.
Yeah, I thought it was another good round for Richardson. They had that obviously the striking exchange in the middle of the round, and I thought, like you say, Bonner looked rocked. Not massively, but just he caught him. He got caught by Richardson, and he quickly went to the ground. And I think he did regroup a little bit after he got caught there. And then, like you say, he caught Richardson with a couple of shots of his own, and then Richardson hit him with a couple of hooks. So they had that little exchange. But I think Richardson did enough, throughout the round to comfortably take it 10-9.
Yeah.
And then the final round of a very, very exciting fight. I don't know if I'd say exciting, but it was
good viewing. Yeah, it was good viewing.
Good to watch.
But I was really impressed with how Bonner come out for this third round. I think his cornerman and himself must have known that they was behind, and he really come out to have it on the feet. I think he had fleeting successes on the feet in the second round, and I think they thought, well, okay, let's give it a go there, and they was absolutely right to do so. He actually started to back Richards up, landed some really nice long shots, some knees in the clinch as well. Was started to get hit himself though again, because as that pedigree of striking, which is I would suggest was the better striker of the two, as it went past sort of a minute and a half, Bonner's form started to show its holes, and Richard started getting success with his overhands again. Started backing Bonner back up. But great little war ensuing for the first part of that final round. But it went to the ground again, and Richards, I think, because it was more efficient to be there, he actually done a bit of a sloppy single leg, but they was both fatigued at this point. He got his own single leg success and took him down, started smothering him in that half guard position.
Yeah, so he got him into the half guard. He was attacking with a bit of ground and pound. Bonner did scramble to his feet, and he started taking a couple of swings at Richardson. Richardson gets Bonner back to the ground, gets the back control, and he attacked Bonner with some ground and pound again.
Yeah, the takedown was really nice as well. He shot in and then leg reaped him. It was nice. He shot in deep, but not deep enough, and so you don't want him to sprawl their legs back. So to reap the leg like he did, it was a real good call. It was a nice takedown. I appreciated it for my viewing.
So for people who don't know, what's a leg reap?
Oh, it's like basically he hooked his leg behind Bonner's leg so he couldn't sprawl back or couldn't footwork back to trip him back. So sometimes when you're just shooting for a double or a single and you just shoot it and you foul to your drive phase. So normally when you shoot him, say let's use a double leg, you shoot in and then you drive up and across to take him over.
Yeah.
Or to stop the person being able to sprawl and anchor his hips to get his body weight away from you. You hook the leg and you bowl them over their own ankle, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a good choice for him to do. Otherwise, he could have been burning up a load of energy with a takedown attempt that wasn't there. So, yeah, that was nice.
Nice. You always appreciate a good
technique. Yeah. I mean, takedowns were something that was never natural to me, and I've become a better wrestler after my career than I was in my career, because we just didn't have much in terms of wrestling coaching during my fight career. So it's something that become quite a big passion of mine now. You will always see a lot of our guys do well up against occasion out in the wrestling realms. We all wrestle not only just because of aspects of the wrestling I teach my students, but we've got good one-on-one wrestlers coaching as well at our gym. We're really lucky to have. But I work a lot of aspects against the fence in terms of that wrestling. So yeah, I've learnt lots. And I really appreciate a good takedown, because then not only you've got to have great sense of timing, and you've got to be fit and strong to do it as well, and a bit of guts, shooting in and failing and not committing it, and it gets you tired, and fighting tired ain't nice. So yeah, when you're wrestling like that, shooting at the legs like Richards did on that final takedown, quite deep in the third round, is a really good choice for him to step behind that leg like he did.
It shows a lot of stamina on his part as well, to do it deep in that third round, and do it so technically well.
Yeah.
I forgot where I was now. He gets the back of Troy, gets him with some ground and pound. Bonner gets Richardson into his full guard after a brief scramble. And the round ends with Richardson landing some more ground and pound. And I thought, again, third round, comfortable for Richardson.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought Bonner was good. He showed like fleeting bits of quality, whether it was, although it was a strange one, because he seemed very much insistent on taking the fight to the ground, but I actually felt that he looked more dangerous
on the feet.
When he started to strike a bit, he looked a bit more dangerous, because when he, like you say, every time, particularly early on, when he did get Richardson to the ground, Richardson was able to scramble up quite easily. So he never really, smothered him or got any sort of real control in the fight on the ground.
Yeah.
But he did catch Richardson with a couple of nice shots on the feet.
Yeah, I wasn't keen on Bonner's choice of takedown, the way he went about it in the first place, such as shooting on the single with the head to the outside. It's not my first choice to go for, and then he took him down. And when he did take him down, he just had lack of control, a lack of knowledge to control, and allowed Richards to easily skip his hips out, get to turtle, scramble against a fence. Just a little bit loose on his overall MMA control, basically, I would say. So, he's obviously a work in progress, in as we all are, but very much a work in progress to improve his skills all round as a full MMAist. But Bonner's so good heart, he showed he deserves to be in there. It was certainly a close fight, at moments. It was good, entertaining watch. It was good. Indeed.
Jamie Richardson defeated Matthew Bonner by unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-26, 30-26. So it looks like one of the judges gave a 10-8 somewhere.
Yeah.
Which round do you reckon they gave that?
Sorry?
Third, maybe? Which round do you think the judges would have given the 10-8?
The third, possibly, yeah. It's hard to know, but...
No, I think, I think the third out of the three of them seemed the most dominant.
Because in the second, he was dominated in the beginning and dominated at the end. I think the third is where he showed the most resilience. But I wouldn't have given him any round.
No. Next up was Adam Armisinger versus Jake Bond, and I tell you what, I was very, very impressed with Adam Armisinger. I've got to say.
Yeah, me too. He beat Luke Shanks back in Luke Shanks' beginning of his career, starting out. Not to make excuses for Luke, but he had a horrible sickness bug leading up to this fight. But have you ever met Luke?
I haven't.
He's a real character. It's tough as nails, and you would tell any fighter, look, you've been puking your guts up. Let's not do this fight. He was literally being sick the day before, throwing up all day. We said, look, it ain't a good idea. But he was hell bent on doing the fight. He did the fight, went straight out, and was puking his guts up. But so we have it. So I have some experience, obviously, at Adam in his game, and his brother trains him. And he looked remarkably improved, obviously from back then, but even from his last fight, I think he lost on, was it decision he lost?
I think
he lost on decision last time he fought. So definitely wanting to make a difference with this fight. And from the get-go, we saw really sharp singular striking. So it weren't like massive combinations or anything like that. It was very patient, very, very piercing single shots with the hands, with the leg kicks. And one of the things I did notice was that he was constantly doing his single shots from different stance. It would be from his left leg forward, then his right leg forward, really confusing Jake. And that's how it went from the beginning to end. He just looked so sharp, and Jake got more and more lost, more and more desperate. And you could see he almost showed the demeanor to the latter part of that first round that he almost like quit on his feet. It's just like, what do I have to do here? And
So
Adam just got
clinical,
more
wasn't it?
aggressive. Oh, it was absolutely clinical. So I was really, really impressed. And really done good work. But poor Jake, isn't he? He hasn't fought since 2018. So is there a little bit of rust setting in? Not to take it away from Adam, because like we both agree that he was super sharp, looked very, very good. Best I've seen him on the feet. But was yeah, Jake a little bit rusty,
maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adam Armisinger was so precise and so clinical in his strikes.
Yeah.
It was just the timing of it all was just so, like you say, it wasn't massive combinations, wasn't bang bang bang. It was just picking his shots, and every shot was getting through. Which is I think that was probably the demoralizing thing for Jake Bond, was that Adam Armisinger was adjusting his stance or adjusting his position, and every shot was getting through. Every shot was nailing him, and you felt like even before the finishing kind of sequence, you felt like it was only a matter of time because every shot was getting through. So he was taking damage and he was taking these big shots.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't going to go, on much longer. And if it did get into the second round, I thought, this is going to lead to a stoppage, because Jake started really backing off, almost waiting to try to receive the shots in the best way he could. It was looking like he was curling up to try to just not be the nut that gets broken, sort of thing. But nevertheless, he was still getting hammered upon. But then Adam started switching up with some knees, and so look, he was catching him with the hands, really super sharp. Started catching him with some leg kicks, which we know is even heavier and even more powerful, and then throwing in those knees. It's just like he just started to give him the whole shebang. He started giving him his whole weaponry. Absolutely convincing performance. Yeah, exciting to see how this kid's going to go on. There's
it'd be great if he could build on this, because, like you say, compared to his last fight, this was a big difference. So if he could really move on and show this type of timing and precision and footwork again, that's going to really do him wonders in where he can go from here.
Yeah.
The ending sequence. So Adam Armisinger won via KO punch, 4 minutes 59 of the first round. Literally the last second he finished it. Of the first round. Bond looked for a takedown, and Armisinger cracked him with a big elbow. Armisinger rocked Bond with another elbow strike, followed by a combination. He dropped Bond with a big knee, and Bond did get back up, but Armisinger dropped him with a right, and he pounced on it with more strikes before the ref. He got up again, and he was dropped again, and the ref jumped in. But I felt like it was a couple of knee strikes in the midsection earlier in the fight, or earlier in the round, and but it was the big knee which he caught him right at during that finishing sequence, which I think really put the fight to bed.
Yeah.
But it was the timing, the precision, the speed, the technique of those strikes getting through, which did the damage.
Yeah, very, very good. Very, very good. Jake's got to go away and really have a look at that performance and ask himself what went wrong. I'm sure he'll come back, a better person for the experience.
Yes, indeed. So the main event of the prelims was Perry Goodwin versus Steve Amiable, which was given to Perry Goodwin via unanimous decision. This was a weird one for me, because I've got to say, I thought, like, watching the fight as a whole, so I didn't normally I score the fights just as I'm watching them, and I'll be taking some notes and stuff. I didn't score this as I was going along, and I didn't take notes. But my feel for the fight at the end, I felt that Steve Amiable had won.
Right.
And then when they gave it to Perry Goodwin at the end, I didn't feel like, oh my God, I can't believe that. But I was a bit like, and I don't know whether it was because I wasn't taking notes, so I wasn't as engrossed in terms of like watching every strike and every
Yeah.
movement and stuff, or whether I just got it wrong. How did you feel this fight went overall?
Yeah, well, going into that final round, I felt that it was one round apiece, and it was all in that third round. If you take away the takedowns as being anything meaningful, because none of the takedowns were meaningful in terms of ground and pound submission attempts, then you're left with a really close fight in that third round. Both had fleeting successes on the feet, but Perry Goodwin was taken down numerous times and taken down big as well. And I was left scratching my head a little bit, wondering how they give that to him. I can only think that they just didn't score the takedowns, and I know they're not scoring takedowns now. They consider it a position change, don't they, when there's a takedown? But you have to be productive with some kind of advancement, so when you take them down, getting past the guard, showing a dominant position, showing some ground and pound, showing some submission attempts. None of that happened. He got those. Steve Abel got those takedowns, but couldn't do a lot with them, and they was very quickly up to the feet again, which is commendable, for his opponent to keep doing that. But nevertheless, he was on the receiving end of those takedowns, having to defend the takedowns attempts. He was having to scramble up. It's all defensive. I was a little bewildered by that too, I've got to say.
So because I was interested in this, because I put a post out on Facebook asking yourself, and I asked a couple of the other boys if they'd watched just to see what people thought. I also looked on Fightful, which is where I normally get my results and MMA news. So I encourage you all to check out Fightful.com. They scored the final round. They scored 10-9 for Amiable as well.
Right.
These guys like you, they really know their stuff, and they know what they're looking for, and they know how scoring works and things like this. So I find it interesting that they scored the first round for Goodwin, but then the next two for Amiable, which is
exactly
how I felt as watching it.
I
I can't personally go into this one in too much detail because I didn't take any notes for this one. But I did enjoy the fight. Perry Goodwin's exciting fighter to watch.
I mean, the first round, just to skim it, you had so what's his name? Perry. Perry Goodwin. You had Perry Goodwin playing on the outside, just going in with really fast long hands, leg kicks, and Steve Amiable. It just looked like he was staying in tight form, but it was constantly waiting for a counter, but the counter would never really come in the first round for him. He had fleeting little successes with single shots, but it was really being him that was being scored upon. And that's pretty much how the whole of the first round went. It was all on the feet. Just they went down momentarily, didn't they? Right at the very end. But nothing really happened from that. Absolutely. Perry Goodwin won that first round. Second round,
he did.
The second round, Steve Amiable started getting these successes, and I think was fairly convincing. I don't think there's any question about the second round. He started getting his striking together. Started getting your success with the takedown. Started looking better and better for him. And I was thinking, right, well, this is going to be interesting. They're going to go more toe to toe in the third round. And like we were just discussing with that third round, it started with both having successes on the feet, but then the takedowns began to happen, and the takedowns were big. They were really big and nice. Okay, so Perry was doing really, really good. Keep scrambling back up to his feet after each of those takedowns that kept happening in in the third round. But those takedowns were big. I mean, they would have to score. I understand if there's a little trip and you just get them down and they scramble back up, that wouldn't score. But these were really big takedowns. They were right up in the air. Surely they've got to be scoring in some form or fashion.
Yeah, that's not a position change, is it? You know, that's a
that's you trying to make us something of the takedown. I mean, the takedown could be a weapon. Okay, it's not a suplex that he did, but it still didn't look nice. You know, the way he was picked up and slammed in the way he was doing, and also you know, Perry Goodwin got cut as well. So there was damage being put on him. I mean, I gave it the last 2 rounds to Steve Aimable, and yeah, I struggle to really see whether there's an argument for it to be the other way around. We're not judges, we're not specialists. Maybe they literally counted up the shots, and maybe Goodwin landed more overall strikes. But what about the rest of what about the fact that he was taken down, had to keep scrambling up and defending against the fence like he was? Yeah, a little bit baffling. But the thing what did impress me with Perry Goodwin was his uppercuts. I mean, they just looked so good. I mean, any one of those, if they landed peach, I think that would have put end to the fight. But yeah, so it was close, but I'm still left wondering myself. But I've learned that this happens. We're not the judges.
Well,
don't leave it to the judges, as they say.
Yes, thankfully, recently when we've been doing these shows, we haven't had too many of these. I will say that. But see, my thing with it is particularly that third round. I can't really see how you can give that fight to Perry Goodwin, that round to Perry Goodwin. So even if, like you're saying about the takedowns being a position change rather than a scoring.
I mean, he was backpedaling, but getting more success for the first half of the round, I would say. And but things really changed. He went for a guillotine as well. So whether they was thinking, well, they felt that he was winning the first half of the third round, and maybe a little bit more, taking it slightly past the halfway mark, and then they saw, the reverse for the second half, and they just thought, well, the first half was more impressive than the second half. I just don't know. I struggle with it a little bit. Because Steve Aimable was started to really crack some big shots in, and like we say, big convincing shots, big takedowns for that second half, and it did kind of all come alive from him from that 2-minute mark. So whether they scored him 3 minutes in, going in favour of Perry Goodwin, and only the last 2 minutes going in favour of Steve Aimable, I don't know. That's the only conclusion I can come to, that they've looked at the timer and been like, okay, that first half of the round went to him, and a smaller portion of the second half went to Steve, and that's how they've scored it. But I wouldn't have scored it that way.
No, me neither. Okay, so we're on. It was very good, very enjoyable fight. So just before we move on to the main cards, and there's some really big and good fights on there. Today's show is brought to you by Away Day Apparel. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people and revive the casual scene. Please visit their website, awaydayapparel.co.uk, where you'll find all sorts of clothing and offers and designs. They brought back some new designs. Their club colours section is particularly popular, where you can get different away day apparel designs in the colours of your favourite football club. And especially for viewers, listeners of Ace Podcast Nation, you can get 10% off all orders by using the code AA Podcast Nation, all lowercase, all one word, AA Podcast Nation. And if you use that at the checkout, you get 10% off all orders. Give them a follow on Twitter at Away Day Apparel or Instagram at @awayday_apparel. 2020 is a very exciting year for these guys. Even with everything going on in the world, I know that they've been working behind the scenes on some big things. So get involved, get on board, because this brand is certainly going places. Okay, so we have the main card of Cage Warriors 113 starting, which was interesting that such a big name should be the fight opener. But the return of Paddy the Baddy Pimblett, obviously been out for 18 months through injury and then fights falling through. Fighting didn't last very long, but he fought Declan Dalton, who, to be fair to him, he stepped in, I think it was 9 days before the fight, because yet again, Paddy's opponents pulled out and had issues. And I do feel for him because he had the American guy came over and was miles overweight just in the end of 2019. And then this card, I think he's had 3 fighters pull out or 2 fighters pull out, and Declan Dalton was the third one. And like Paddy says, it's because no one wants to fight him. It's difficult to wonder if there's any truth to it that so many fights have fallen through for him.
I just think it's just the way it feels for him. I think there are people who want to fight him there because he's got a lot to offer someone if they beat him.
Oh, absolutely.
So he'll be a head that's hunted for. But I just think it's a set of circumstances that have led to it. It's just really unfortunate. It's just a run of events. But he got a fight. It didn't last long, but it maybe got to blow some cobwebs away. I'm sure he's happy to go in there and just get some cage time.
Winning thread back, isn't it?
Yeah. The fight didn't last long. They've just had a few exchanges on the feet, but I feel a little bit sorry for Dalton. He's come in short notice and he fell off balance. He didn't even get taken down. He didn't get knocked down. He fell off balance onto his own ass and got his back taken super quick. And the back take position was just awful. It's just not where you want to be with anyone on your back, especially someone as good on the ground as Paddy Pimblett is. He had his arm trapped as well with a body triangle. Paddy's pretty tall at the weight, 5'11", and Dalton's not particularly tall at the weight. They had considerable height difference visually.
Yeah.
And he was stuffed in it. I mean, fair play for him to survive as long as he did with that arm trapped. I mean, he was looking to his corner. I think he was trying to express to his corner. I think his corner was trying to give advice. He goes, well, I think he's trying to signal to him, I can't because my hand's trapped. What do I do here? That is just really hard situation. I mean, how did you get? There's no huge technical know-how to get out of something when you're so trapped in like that. You just have to use your remaining hand and try to put as much of your body weight on them as possible. The issue I've always say with body triangles, it's quite hard to finish someone because you don't have proper control of the hips for a submission attempt. It is still possible to submit them, don't get me wrong. When you've got hooks in, you just have more power and bite in your arms for the rear naked choke. I think this is why he survived that situation as long as he did. But started looking horrible when they went belly down. Things started looking awful for him. I just felt for the guy.
He slipped as he went for a kick, didn't he? And
I
mean, fair play to Paddy. Like Paddy, he looked super focused going in. He looked like he was ready. And the second that Dalton slipped going for a kick, it seemed like Paddy knew he was going to do it because he was on him so quick on his back.
He was.
And you mentioned there, like when you've got someone who's as good on the ground as Paddy, if you make that error and you give him that opportunity, he'll 9 times out of 10 he's going to make the most of it. Yeah,
he physically looked good as well. He looks like he's got more muscle about him than in his younger years. His body's developing into a full-blown man. It'd be good to see him, with an actual fighter that he's prepared for, to see how he performs now. And I'm sure we're going to see some more Pimblett goodness in short time after all this corona, of course. Later in the year for sure, I think we're going to see him. And let's get him to build on those wins and move forward.
Yeah, he had after he had the body triangle, he flattened him out really well to finish him.
Yeah, he did.
He just extended those hips, I suppose, and just flattened him out and finished him with the ground and pound to the coming from the back. And referee didn't have a choice. He didn't.
No, absolutely. There was no answers. He was just receiving constantly. It was a matter before, one of those was going to do unnecessary damage more so than it was already been done. Good stop by the ref. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've said before, look, it's not Paddy's fault that he slept. And
No.
you can only fight what's in front of you. You can only do what's in front of you.
One of the things you learn as a martial artist, I remember when me and my brother went down to Taekwondo school, and one of the first things they said about the importance of balance. So yeah, this was a rookie mistake by Decker Dalton. You can't even use being short notice as an issue to why you lost.
No.
He made a mistake, and a big one, losing your base like that. And it wouldn't have been so consequential if Paddy weren't such a ground specialist. I mean, maybe Paddy would have waved him up, but Paddy's known for his grappling, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're down in my arena. You're in my spider web. I'm going to come and eat you." And ate him up, he did.
Yeah, it's like, I'll take that, thank you.
Yeah, impressive.
Game
Good. You did good.
And just for everyone who's listening, you can check out my interview with Paddy the Baddy Bimblet on Ace Podcast Nation's YouTube page and all audio podcasting sites. I'll put a link in the description as well. Just a little plug there. Next up was David Bear versus Nathan Jones. Now, this was an interesting fight. I enjoyed this one.
Yeah. Let me just get that one up again.
Yeah, you liked it.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one. Yeah, this one was good. Nathan Jones looked really good with his striking, didn't he? He was looking like a real predator coming out. Yeah, he was coming out hard. And I was really surprised that, Dave Bear was, willing to still stay on the feet as long as he was, because he was the one that was getting put to the outskirts of the cage for a big duration of that first round. And I was wondering, when's he going to, perhaps be aware that this round's slipping away from him. Like I say, I was just really impressed with Nathan Jones. I know he's a really good grappler as well, Nathan Jones. So I was kind of surprised maybe he didn't want to build off of that striking and maybe take it down to really be convincing of the round and really put the full MMA clinic on David Bear. But that wasn't the case. I mean, how was you seeing that first round? You see it pretty much the same as me?
Yeah, I thought so. I was surprised that David Bear didn't go for the takedown earlier. He eventually goes for the takedown towards the end of the round. I thought Jones, and particularly when I look at my notes, it's very much Jones attacking Bear with leg kicks. Bear fires back with a shot, but it's Jones going for a high kick. Bear uses his jab a little bit, but it's a lot of Jones on the attack with the strikes. Whereas I know on Fightful and some other places they had Bear down as winning the round, and obviously he won by unanimous decision, 30-27, which I found interesting because going off my own notes and going off what you just said, Nathan Jones was doing a lot of the attacking.
Yeah, he was, and this was a little difficult to score because the takedown that happened at the 2-minute mark. So we'd have 3 minutes where David Bear was on the receiving end somewhat, not massively consequentially, but he was mildly being outpointed and was definitely being put on the out fringes of the cage. But I think maybe because nothing really hugely consequential happened in the strikes, that this round went against him because nevertheless he did score the takedown nice and cleanly too, and he did get dominant position
as well. Guillotine right at the end, underneath.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think that's what stole the round.
Yeah, it was a very good takedown as well.
Yeah, I think a nice, good, clean takedown, a dominant position from the takedown, and finish with a submission attempt. And I think that's what overlooked the 3 minutes of mild.
I think maybe if Nathan Jones's strikes had been a bit more aggressive or he just done a bit more damage, you could make a case for the strikes outweighing the the takedown and the submission attempt and stuff. But when you look at it, like when you look at it and you break it down, I suppose I can see that too. But I was just,
yeah.
I was just
It-
giving my opinion just from
Sure.
my
Yeah,
initial
no, I
notes.
totally. Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, had he taken him down and been stifled in a closed guard that he couldn't be active in, and then they get back to the feet, then you're going to give this round to Nathan Jones.
Yeah,
But
of course.
but the only attempt he had to get off his back from that side control, David Bear just transitioned the position into a submission attempt into mount as well. So I think that was a step too far for the judges to keep it in favour of Jones at that point, and they give it to David Bear. And I would have agreed with that in the end, but purely because of the way that ended.
Yeah. So what about round two? How did you see that?
Yeah, round two, I think when he shot in and got that takedown reasonably easy, I think he knew he was onto a good thing there. Felt confident that Nathan Jones didn't have nothing to offer in terms of being problematic to David Bear on top, and didn't have much resistance in the takedown attempt. So he shot in really early, and he did. He's got his top position really early. We see them, playing around a little bit in half guard. You did see Nathan Jones do some, not complex by any stretch, but any good grappler will know that, with the way he was trying to work different types of lockdown. The only issue with lockdowns is it flattens you out on your back too. So, okay, it stops them passing your guard, but half guard is not a guard that you have to pass in MMA. It's actually a really productive ground and pound position, where you have a lot of control over someone. So using that kind of guard that Nathan Jones chose to, all it done was keep them active on the ground, but kept him pinned on his back. What I would have liked to have seen from Nathan Jones, and I train a lot of my guys, if you're on your back, you want to work to your feet. The only way you're going to stay on your back is if you have a full closed guard to go to an open guard to make an attack to submit, because you're so far behind in the fight, maybe to look for finish. But other than that, you don't want to be on your back. Every second that ticks by, you're losing that round. Get out of there, get back to your feet, or find a way to get on top. But he was faffing around, I felt, too much with the half guard, trying to do different linkages, and it was getting him to look smothered, and it was wasting his energy as well. I mean, he was trying other types of guard where I don't know what you would give the name for it, where you face the hips away. It's a good way of trying to retract back into a half guard. He was actually from side control trying to hook the far leg in, but it's just it's nothing more than a stalling tactic. But in MMA, you ain't stalling anything because they can punch you. No. And so I felt like sometimes Nathan, when he was on the ground, was in no-gi jiu-jitsu mode rather than in I'm on the ground MMA mode.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like to me. But he did have a little try at a leg lock, didn't he? Around 1 minute 45 left of the round, he had a little chance of a leg lock, but David Bear was well versed in defending it, but did get himself in a little pickle. You ended up with like a really strange type of half guard where the potential to go to the back was there for Nathan. But I think Nathan was tired by this point, and just settled to lock down, which looked like, well, I'm just trying to survive the round, get to the end of the round, and I'll try and work something from round three. I was a little bit disappointed in Nathan's choice of ground style. I think he could have put his energies into scrambling back up to the feet where he was having success, but too much playing around in that half guard.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Jones was looking for a heel hook on me at one point, and he kind of was. Jones was. I felt like this was a bit of a weird round for Jones. Like he wasn't really doing a great deal, and what he did do didn't do that great.
No.
And the round finished, and Bear gained half guard whilst also hitting Jones with a few strikes. He did scramble to his feet, but
there was nothing massively consequential for Nathan, but the round just got smothered away from him.
Yeah, he lost the round comfortably.
Yeah.
And then the final round, again, I thought David Bear won this round also. Jones began with a couple of leg kicks, but then, Bear found a couple of his own. Jones rocked him briefly.
Yes, he did.
briefly with a nice overhand right. And then just in that moment, I thought, right, now's your chance. You're 2 rounds down. You've caught him. You've got to go and finish it.
But we saw another takedown where they stepped behind the leg. He shot in again, and to stop the sprawl response, he shot in and hooked behind with the leg to trip Jones down. It was really nice work. But Jones was really trying to show intent to try to win. He tried to throw up that triangle. It started making me sit up a little bit, thinking, "Oh my goodness, after going 2 rounds down, is he going to have it all taken away from him?" But no, David Bear was too versed in that triangle attempt. Maybe a little sniff at the arm bars, the triangle slipped away, and then we started seeing very, very similar stuff to the previous 2 rounds when it was on the ground. Nathan started looking smothered, a little bit lost to know what kind of strategical game to play on the ground, which I would always suggest is to get back to your feet, scramble away, anything, even scrambling away, offering your back when you're now slippery and slidey gives you some hopes of getting back to your feet. And if he did get back to his feet and David Bear was kind of desperate to hold on and lose his control, Nathan can at least be attacking David Bear where he's on a little bit of deficit. Okay, Nathan would have to dig deep because he's just scrambled off the ground. But if he bites down on that mouthpiece and goes at him with the strikes, we've seen that he could rock David Bear. Maybe that could have created something that would have led to a potential win, but played around on his back way too long and was not looking to get to the feet.
Yeah, I think so. At one point, Bear actually scrambled to his feet. Which
he got overturned, didn't he? He got caught in a turnover. About 1.5 minutes in, he went to mount for about half a second, and it must have been a bit of fatigue because David Bear was showing really good grappling, but to be reversed over in mount position is not what you would expect at that level. It must have been a bit of fatigue, I'm guessing. But well done for Nathan to feel the base was off and get this out. I think he probably was surprised that he went over so easy.
Yeah.
So they ended up back to the feet, but Nathan Jones just looked too jaded then to actually be
taking so much out of him, and like even at the end of the round, Jones was looking for a standing Kimura, and he just didn't seem to have the energy levels to really. I don't think it was the best position for it, and it was almost like a last gasp saloon type thing where he was just trying to do something, which deserves credit for just trying to not give up.
He knew he was losing the triangle attempt that he had, and the leg lock attempt. He knew he was losing the round and losing the fight, so he started hunting for the submission to try to put it to bed and not let it go to the judges. And the last ditch effort was to try to do a standing Kimura, and the hope that could nail it. So respect for him to know and be aware of where he was at in the fight, to start knowing he's got to try and select a submission if he didn't have the energy to knock him out to try and submit the guy. But the energy wasn't even there for that. Having 2 arms on one that he had briefly, it just wasn't enough. So good performance by David Bear. Quite impressive. I'm impressed with his wrestling. Nice shoots. Yeah,
he was very good. David Bear won by unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. Next up was my favourite moment of the night, I've got to say. Was Welshman Mason Jones challenging Irishman Joe McColgan for the...
Oh, yeah, this was good.
For the...
this was a good
featherweight, lightweight title. For the lightweight title. And...
hang on. No, what weight was that? Was they not a featherweight? No, no. Was they flyweight?
I've got it as lightweight, but I could be wrong. I think it's lightweight.
Yeah, I'm just looking back. I'm not too sure now what weight they was. Maybe they was the lightweight.
I thought it was lightweight. I got to be honest, but like I say, I could be wrong.
But I knew this was going to be a good fight.
But you know what? After about a minute, I thought we were going to get like 5 rounds of just them banging, just back and forth. And then all of a sudden, as I was thinking it, Mason just went bang, bang, bang. It was all over.
It's got only a lightweight title bout Those lightweight. I thought there's featherweight.
Lightweight. But it is interesting that Mason Jones has been called out by a few fighters already. So it'll be interesting which direction they go in, because I know they're on about doing a show in Wales later in the year, and one of the fighters who called him out was Oban Elliott. Obviously, who's a Welshman.
Right. I mean, that would be a corking fight. Them two. That would be a real good fight.
That will just be pop, pop, bang.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be too much grappling and clinching. But obviously, at the moment, I think they want Oban to have a couple more fights before he goes for any titles. But
I do what that he's still young in his pro career, and I think if they do it right, they should move him up steadily, get him some feeling some rough patches in certain rounds, and so he experiences the full realm of what it's going to be to go through to fight for a 5-round title fight. By all means, let's bring him up steady and slow. But if the fight did happen between these two, I'd really be enjoying watching it. I think it would be fireworks.
Talk us through it. It wasn't a particularly long fight. Only lasted 4 minutes 40. For the lightweight championship, Mason Jones versus Joe McColgan.
Joe McColgan was looking really nice. He looks really crisp when he strikes. Had the reach advantage and the height advantage, and was trying to make use of it. But Mason Jones was pressing close with those hands. Was not scared to go toe for toe. He was having his successes with his hands and his kicks. I would say Joe was looking a little bit more crisp, but Mason was looking a little bit more just effective, I think, and more aggressive. Joe started in the latter part of the round, started having his head a little bit left on the centre line and letting the shorter range Mason land simple jabs time and time again, and cross hands and getting landed on with the leg kicks as well as the round progressed. Joe just looked like, because he was the taller, leaner guy, looked like he just didn't quite have the power of Mason, particularly in that first. Who would have known what would have happened if it went into other rounds? But it looked like what he was doing to Mason looked very, very nice, looked very clinical, but it seemed to be bouncing off Mason somewhat. And when Mason was hitting, he was ripping his head back, he was kicking his leg up in the air, and when they was going up against the fence, he looked the physically stronger guy. And the round looked like it was beginning to fizzle away from Joe, and he would have to reset his ideas for another round. But Mason Jones, had other ideas. He was keeping him smothered against the fence, doing really well there. You had to see Joe, because he's got a good Thai boxing background. He gets him in a Thai clinch, throws up a knee, but Nathan was having none of that. They broke into the opening, and Mason lands a really nice, consequential looking leg kick. And I think, as the rounds progressed, I think those leg kicks would have started racking up for Mason.
Yeah, they looked like they were troubling him, didn't they? Even in the early rounds.
Yeah. And again, the jab, Mason was just throwing that jab in and kept finding home for it a little bit too often. And that's the thing with people who come from that Thai boxing background. They have a very centralized head. They don't bob and weave. They don't slip shots. And this was getting his lead leg kicked and getting his nose kicked. Nose punched with those straight jabs. Then Nathan went in with the knee. I think it was a knee, wasn't it? That
he caught him with
went in with a couple of hand shots. Yeah, he got through the guard, and another good referee stoppage. The refs were really on it tonight, I've got to say. Every stoppage was absolutely great. Yeah, they could have let him go on another blow or two longer, but absolutely no need. The fights were done at the point when the refs stepped in. Really good performance from Nathan. That Joe is really good. I really rate him. It would have been interesting if it went into other rounds to see whether Joe would have come out with a different game plan, because I think his team and him as a fighter are capable of adapting to the circumstance and regroup and come out with a plan B in the second round. But respect to Mason, man, he's on his way up there. He's featherweight, isn't it? He mainly fights out there.
I think he does normally. Yeah, but you're right about the Mason just looked like he had that extra bit of power. Those leg kicks, even even in the early round, those leg kicks looked like they were hurting, and I just
Yeah,
think if the fight had gone on and he had been able to keep nailing those leg kicks, you wonder about the damage there. But I
yeah,
mean, obviously the knee strike which he caught him with as they separated just before they finished, and they kind of exchanged a combination just after that. And it was the left, I think it was an uppercut, which caught McColgan, and he dropped him again then with another knee,
yeah.
and he followed it up with a few strikes to finish off. But I mean,
Yeah, and I actually think the way Joe went down when that knee landed, Joe kind of jumped to the floor. He wasn't even knocked down. I think it hurt him rather than rocked him. I think it
yeah,
actually hurt him, and he went down, and it was almost for the ref to step in, because he
yeah,
had his hand aloft like this, not in a way of defending, but almost to say, okay, enough.
yeah.
It was like he was hurt.
Big shot,
Um,
wasn't it?
yeah, but yeah, great for Mason. Really, really good, and Joe will come back from this, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. You could. He's Joe McColgan's technique and the way he strikes is
Really crisp. He's
fantastic,
good, technically
beautiful.
very, very good. It'd be nice to see him switch up his footwork a little bit, to improve and make his strike a little bit more diverse. He's very clinical, but clinical can sometimes mean predictable, and wasn't bringing enough tricks to the game to trick Mason into anything. It'd be nice to see him switch up his stance a little bit and stick some head movement in, and then I think we'll see a revigorated Joe in the future bouts.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just killing a mosquito. It's really been bugging me. Like for the
Okay.
hole, it just keeps coming in the corner of my eye. Yeah, I thought Mason was about as impressive as he could have been as well in terms of
Yeah,
a short fight and stuff. Um,
yeah,
right, this last fight, Darren Stewart versus Bartosz Fabianski. I have a slight problem in that my screen, my third screen, which has got my notes and everything in it on it, is skewiffed, and I can't access my notes currently. So you might
yeah.
have to
That's
carry
okay.
this. You might have to
Yes, no
carry this
problem
one
at all.
round and round.
Not a problem
But
at all. Well, the agenda for, wait, I have to pronounce this out. Bartos. Am I pronouncing that right?
yeah.
Ninsky. It's very clear that he wants the takedown. You know what? The overall, before I break down the rounds in any too much of technical, overly, I wasn't impressed with either of them technically. With the way Bartos was shooting in, he was gaping his arms, he was reaching round, which made it really easy for Darren Stewart to get under pummels and foil a lot of the takedown attempts at the beginning. So his body locking each other, it looked like a strongman competition between two obviously physical dudes, but nothing that pretty was going on. It was all quite smothery, and there was nothing pretty going on. It was still good viewing, but they was just kind of holding on to each other, a little bit lost how to get either each other to the ground or to break free. They didn't seem to have the technical know-how. So the only way it broke it into space was the referee intervening, because the referee, his experienced referee, Mark Goddard, saw that it was going nowhere. So he broke them apart. But the same thing really happened. Stewart clearly looked like he wanted to try and strike a little bit, but Posthoff shot straight in, again, terribly. Didn't shoot in very, very nicely at all. I think he's more of a judo player, isn't he, rather than a wrestler. He did get Darren Stewart down, not in the most prettiest way, just for the fact that it was the first round and he's looked physically quite strong, and managed to get him down, managed to tie up both feet. It started looking good for him here. But couldn't do much with it. Now, before he got taken down, he got hit with a nasty elbow on the side rear of the head. That opened up a lot of blood. At the time, I didn't know where that blood was coming from. I was thinking, oh my God, he's got to try and end it in this round. I thought it might have been on the face, but it was on the side portion of his head. So he's kind of, lucky that it wasn't anywhere that was going to run down into his eyes and face for a potential stoppage. So yeah, he got Darren Stewart down. Now Darren Stewart, his ground just didn't look good. It didn't do the right things to scramble up, and I started to wonder, what's his grappling really like? he was doing an okay job stuffing some of the takedowns. He did get taken down in the end, but wasn't doing the right things in getting up. And then did have a guillotine attempt right at the end of the round to try and steal back the round and maybe take the fight from Bartos, but it wasn't there for him. He didn't have enough type of guard, and the round ended. Darren Stewart, lost purely on the fact that there was that one takedown. Although there's nothing pretty about it, he went one round down for me in that first round. Yeah. Do you remember much about the fight? I mean,
yeah, I remember bits of it. I gotta say, overall, considering these were like the two UFC guys coming in to the Cage Warriors, I thought they were the least impressive fighters on the main cards.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be critical, of any fighter, but I gotta say how I see it. And I saw two people were lacking in areas, in almost all areas. Yeah, I mean, they've got to go away. Realistically, look at this, saying, I need to be, for both of them, they both need to perform better than that if they want to be on the UFC. Everyone can have off night or an off nights. That can potentially happen. Maybe we could put it down to that. I'd have to see more of them both to know whether, there is more education needed for them to improve all round. But so some of the decision making as well. I mean, Darren was going for that guillotine again very early in that second round from the feet. It was just the wrong type of thing to go for in that situation. So again, he found himself on his back. He was trying to have a real punt at this guillotine that was never really there. Got guard past. There was a lot of blood at this point, which was making it hard for either of them to work fluently. And it was another smother fest, really. There was not any really clever guard work going on from Darren Stewart. There was no real guard passing attempts by Botos. Little ground and pound from both very, very ineffective. It was just an ugly round. And that's pretty much what was happening in that second round. It was just an ugly mess of blood and goo. It was kind of like an old style UFC fight back from the early days. That's what it looked like. A load of blood, someone just sitting in closed guard, ground and pounding because he didn't know what to do other than, and the guy on the back was just trying to hit back. That's what I saw. It was like an old school MMA bout.
Just the perfect analogy, I think. There, it was like an old school UFC fight, and just in the way they, just the blood as well, made it.
It didn't look good.
They didn't look what they were like technically, like what they knew where to go at some points.
Yeah, but then that third round come out with us a little bit of surprises. They're both really swinging, and Darren actually looked like he was bringing a different game plan. So this gave me hope that his cornerman and for himself were knowing how the fight was going, and that he brought something different to the table for that round three. And so he come out much more mobile with his footwork to make it hard for Botos to just run it and clinch him. And then shot him with a takedown of his own. It's actually one of the bad takedowns. It was a little out of range, but he ran through and really committed it, and actually got Botos down. He had a little minor success on top, but with by the time we hit the 4 minute mark, 1 minute in, they was back to their feet again. And then Bartos shoots in. It's up against the fence. He gets him down. And Darren Stewart's in the same predicament he was in before. Again, showing like he was making different attempts than what he did in the first two rounds, which goes to show that at least he's trying to adapt, which give me hopes for his mindset and for his future in the MMA. He was trying to make adaptations, but just had a little technical know-how on how to do anything with it. He was trying to get back to the feet, but technically not that great at doing so. And Bartos just kept on putting him down. And again, it became a really ugly affair. Nothing pretty, nothing martial arty about it. Definitely tough guys. I mean, definitely tough dudes. I mean, they're in there doing a really tough sport. But yeah, I wasn't impressed by either performance. I'm sure they would agree. I'm sure their teams would agree. They both have to come away from this looking to make themselves better. But for me, all 3 rounds went in favour of Bartos by messy takedown. A lot of blood.
Yes,
a lot of blood.
Do you think that knowing that this was only a 3-round fight because it was a short notice fight, that they should have put the title fight at the main event.
Yeah, but no one knew how these fights were going to be.
Well, no, but
I mean, the best part of this match was that there was a lot of blood.
Yeah, but the title fight was a 5-rounder as well, so it's like
Yeah.
I didn't quite get the thinking behind it, other than they're just because they're from the UFC.
Yeah, I think that's why they was the main ones, was purely because they were supposed to be on UFC.
Well, then they should have fought 5 rounds. Not that I would want it to see 5 rounds of these
Yeah,
two, but
that.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but we are sounding really harsh on the fighters. But
Yeah,
I don't
maybe.
think. I think it takes styles as well, and I think that stylistically they kind of made each other look messy and didn't look so good. I think maybe if they was up against a different style guy, we would have seen totally different versions of themselves. But it just didn't match well.
Yeah, at the end of the day, styles make fights, and that's just the way it is. Danny's gone sideways. I think he's actually gone. Styles make fights, and we've seen that over the years in all combat sports, whether it's boxing, MMA, whatever it may be. Sometimes you can get fighters which mesh, and some fighters just don't. Even sometimes you get fights where you think they're going to mesh and it's going to be an absolute banger, and they don't turn out to be. I don't quite know what happened to Danny. He's going to have to go out and come back in. But we'll carry on for the moment. So, guys, what I will do is, just while we're waiting for Danny to rejoin, because is he back? Let's have a look. No, he's not. He's going to come back in a minute. Over the coming weeks, because we've got no MMA or boxing to cover, me and Danny are going to do like a bit of a retro review type thing. So starting from next week, we're going to be looking at old UFC shows and boxing. So next week we're going to be covering UFC number 1, which is going to be really interesting because I know Danny's got links to the Gracie family as well. So we're going to cover that as the main portion of the show, and we're also going to cover a boxing match, which we're looking for you guys to send us classic boxing or MMA fights that you want us to cover. Not necessarily cards, but like individual fights. Preferably, though, you need to be able to provide us with some sort of link to that fight, whether it's if the full fight's on YouTube or the full fight's on UFC Fight Pass, wherever it may be. We need to be able to obviously watch it. And I know someone has actually sent one in where I put a post up earlier in the week where it is Lennox Lewis versus Frank Bruno. So we're going to watch that fight and we'll cover that in just for a bit of fun, keep the show going, and keep you guys entertained. Coronavirus lockdown, as it were. Let's see what Danny's rebooting. He's rebooting his the old tablet and stuff. But yeah, guys, just while we wait for Danny, you can always send in your questions. Any questions for myself or Danny, boxing, MMA related, you can send them in each week to you can email them to acenetworkcontact@gmail.com, or you can also send them to Twitter @ACEcast_nation and Instagram @ACEcast_nation and Facebook.com/ACEcastNation. And just send your questions in there and we can get them in each week. So I was just telling the people, Danny, because you decided to go for a quick jog.
No, yeah.
I was just telling the people
Just cut out on me.
about the plans really for the show going forward. We're going to start with UFC 1 next week, and just to cover some old fights and stuff. And actually, I put a post up mentioning this earlier in the week, and someone sent in that they would like us to look at Lennox Lewis versus Frank Bruno, and they also sent a link. So I'll send you the link for that. So we'll have a look at that next week. We'll look at UFC 1, and Frank Bruno versus Lennox Lewis, which that'd be
Yeah,
a bit of fun.
yeah, definitely. That'd be good. I mean, crikey, I remember watching that when I was a young lad.
Indeed, so that'll roll back the years.
Yeah, definitely.
There was one question that we did have, and I can't find it. Oh yeah, it was basically they said the Cage Warriors guy Graham, I forget his surname, Boylan, has said that he will try and keep doing these Cage Warriors shows, but
Yeah,
obviously he's in the hands of the government and the experts and the
sure.
scientists. Now the biggest problem with that is the gyms are closed, so fighters can't train. So the
Yeah.
question which this person was asking is, can they realistically still put if they can put Cage Warriors events on it, if they can work out the logistics of it, is it fair to the fighters who can't train?
I think we're in unprecedented territory with all of this, and I think right now the country needs to be locked down across the board to give us the best chance of limiting the timescale that this drags on for. Of course, I want to see MMA keep advancing and moving on. I don't want things to change. I'm a fan of it as well as it being my job. My own gym's shut as well. I just think I wouldn't be happy with any of my fighters having to still fight under this circumstance. I really wouldn't.
Could be dangerous as well.
Yeah, it's just all of it's just a lot more difficult. And yeah, I would just say this all for the sake of a matter of a number of months maximum. I hope that's all it's going to be. Let's all just embrace this together and go through it together. Yes, yeah. I wouldn't want to see it continue, although it's just not ideal. And all it's going to do is encourage people to get together to try and do some kind of training anyway. It just means that they're going to be breaking the terms and conditions to try to limit this horrible disease to just keep spreading and keep hanging in there. I think we should all stick together and
stick together separately.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. I mean, no one knew how serious this was. I mean, back just last week, you were saying about whether I was leaving the gym open or not, and we was, and but we knew that could potentially change. We just didn't know how severe this was going to be, and of course, some people were crying, not crying wolf because it's ended up being quite bad, but some people were saying it's going to be like really horrendous. There's other people saying, "Oh, come on, it's not much." No one really knew. I mean, we're not specialists. We're a little bit enslaved to what the specialists say, and not all of it was out there at the time. But it's turned out to be pretty damn serious, and we got to protect everybody in the country, and the only way we're going to do that is all sticking together. Now it's kind of crazy, really, because there's one part of me that's all for this now. Now I realise that this is going to be the only way we can get rid of this horrible disease. But part of my frustration is, well, some of us are doing what needs to be done, shutting their gyms, not going to work. But then my parents live down in Somerset, right on the coast, and they're seeing traffic jams outside their door, which lead to a place called Breen, which is a holiday place, and they're seeing traffic jams out there like it's summer holidays. This isn't people quarantining themselves to keep themselves safe, and it's kind of disappointing. Because it's just going to drag it on. It's going to drag it on for everyone, and
it's going to bring the police and the military into play because they're going to have to actually enforce it.
Yeah, they're going to. If people don't do what needs to be done, it's going to be forced on them. And no one really wants to have that kind of thing forced on them, but that's the way it's going to be. And then you're going to get some, potential social unrest. It's just going to get an even uglier version than it is now. And I just don't think it needs to be going down that route, but quite possibly might have to. Now, I know some people. Don't want to bring politics into it, but I really feel sorry for Boris. He's not had the best of time of things, and what with all the coming into power with all this Brexit, that was something that was just on the news all the time. Everyone got sick of it, and now Boris is having to deal with something like this, which is a one in a generation occurrence. Let's hope that's all it is going to be. Let's hope we never have this again. And that was having to deal with this really harsh situation for anyone leading any country. But yeah, they're doing what they. I think we should have perhaps acted faster.
Yeah, absolutely. It should have been
In
done
shutting things
2
down.
weeks ago.
Yeah. But even, you know, for me personally, I wasn't unsure. I was unsure. What do you do at this
Yeah.
stage? I didn't know, but I'm not a specialist. But in hindsight now, you know, maybe they should have shut everything down a little sooner. But as far as I'm aware, we're still allowing flights to come in from some of the infected countries.
I'm not sure if they've stopped them now. I don't know. I might
Right.
be wrong. I
Yeah.
think
Which,
if they have stopped them, it's only been stopped like in the last day or two.
yeah.
But what people need to realize is the schools are not closed, so
Mm,
so kids can go out and play, or so
mm,
kids can go and see their mates, or so you can go and down to the beach like as a summer holiday and meet up with your
yeah.
friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Like you are allowed out, you are allowed to go for a walk, but you're supposed to stick to, like, if you go for a walk, you go for a walk with the people you live with, and that's it.
Yeah.
Don't meet up with
Yeah.
people, mingle with people. Like I didn't go and see my mother today. She only lives around the corner, but I don't live
Right.
with her.
Yeah.
She's 60 plus. I've got my own set of health problems.
Yeah.
We, we so I didn't see my mum on Mother's Day. My wife didn't see her mum, who lives 10 minutes away,
Yeah.
because her mum's got really bad asthma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
stick to it, why cannot other people? Is my point.
Yeah, and this is something we've got to do collectively together to have
Yes,
the biggest impact as we can on trying to prevent this disease spreading. We've got to do it together, or it's going to be an ugly situation for a very long time. And this kind of thing, I can only surmise from what I'm learning about from it, it's going to hang about. And yeah, we have to nail this why it's small, because in the big scheme right now it's small enough
yeah,
to deal with it. But if you let this go too far, it's going to become a big issue, big issue. And yeah, it's quite scary.
it is. And like the last thing I'll say on it is two things really. Number one is if it does get big, which it will do if people keep ignoring the advice,
Mm-hmm.
the NHS is not equipped to deal with it. Which means if
Yeah,
you have a car crash or a heart attack or whatever it may be,
yeah,
they're going to be so stretched they might not be able to treat you because they haven't got the
that's right.
beds,
Yeah,
because
yeah, I
there's
was
so many
listening to.
people with the virus.
I'm obviously listening to news a lot, and listening to people do talks, and I can't remember who said it now, but someone made a really good, valid point that it's not just the corona victims; it's the knock-on effect of all the beds in the NHS, time and efforts going into all the victims of corona. But what about all these other people that have got cancers and need
Yeah,
need surgeries for this and that and other sicknesses that are going to take hold? And so you're not just going to have victims of the coronavirus, you're going to have victims of other issues, other diseases, other sicknesses. Yeah, it's
scary times.
very difficult, very
And
difficult.
fact is, and this is why we'll finish the show completely on this, is
Yeah.
if people do not stick to it and stick to the advice,
Mm.
number one, they will enforce it with military and police, like
Yeah,
they're
they will.
doing in Spain, Italy, for your own safety. And number two is the more people don't stick with it, the longer you will have to stay at home and you will have to
Yeah.
stay in. The kids will
Yeah,
be
it's
off
going to have a
school,
bigger impact. I mean,
everything.
the, all this money that's being invested, it's us, the people, that will pay for it in the long run. I mean, the government are doing what they can financially to bail out companies and what have you, and they don't even know to what extent that's going to really be. That depends on how long it's going to be.
Well, they
We'll
haven't even
shut down.
announced
So,
the
yeah,
self-employed, what they're going to do to help self-employed people, and they're the
yeah.
people that I think need the help. I'd rather see them helping self-employed people than seeing them helping global
Mm,
conglomerate companies
yeah,
who have,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I mean,
they're the people who are going to
people
lose
got to
everything.
understand, them going out to the beach and congregating in any kind of groups is doing nothing more than dragging this on. And the longer it goes on, the more money it's going to cost the government. And ultimately, the more money it costs the government, the more taxes you're going to have to pay down the line to make up for this. It's going to come back on us. So it's down to us to be responsible right now. I just hope people adhere to that.
Yeah. Fingers crossed, mate. Fingers
But
crossed.
on a positive note, conspiracy theorists books and things like that will go through the roof now, I'm sure.
Well, funny you should say that, because my conspiracy theory host, we did about 15 shows, I think, when we first
Yeah.
launched the channel. He contacted me earlier this week and said, right, I want to restart the series because he's been on a break. So
Right.
we might relaunch that now over the coming
Yeah,
weeks.
that'd be interesting. Actually, when I was at the gym, I stayed at the gym and we do deep cleaning and stuff like that till 5 o'clock in the morning. And so once I've done all my job to get to sit down for a few hours. And one of the things that I sat down and listened to was a conspiracy theory about the whole corona with David Icke. I mean, he's the conspiracy theorist king, isn't he? Wrote numerous books. Always listen to the guy with tongue on cheek, certainly an intelligent guy, definitely someone who thinks offbeat, but he makes some valid points that really make you think and wonder. I try not to get too sold up on it. It's like one of these things, if you watch a conspiracy theory about did we land on the moon, if you watch a documentary all about in favor of the conspiracies who say that, it didn't happen, you'll come away thinking, wow, it couldn't have happened. But then when you get, you watch real NASA people and real astronauts stake their claims on all the reasons why, look, it did happen, then you're back to believing it again. So I'll try not to get too sold up on it, but out of the pure interest of a mystery, which I think humans love, I listened to this 2 hour, which I'd say for anyone to listen to. David Icke did it just recently. You can watch it on YouTube. It's actually really interesting, put some valid points on why this all could potentially be happening. It's a little bit far out there, but it's an interesting listen. It killed a night shift for me.
And it's interesting. Yeah, I completely agree. I'll probably check out myself. Okay, guys, we'll be back next week as usual, next Wednesday. Sunday for us, but next Wednesday for you guys. And we'll be looking at UFC 1 and also Lennox Lewis versus Frank Bruno. So if you guys would like to kind of watch those shows as well and then listen to us talk about them afterwards, then obviously do that. And as always, send your questions in. You can find video versions of every single show we do, whether it's the Danny Batten MMA show, the football show, or conspiracy theory shows, or any other show we've ever done at youtube.com/ACEpodcastNation, or audio is basically everywhere: Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio. But you can find the links at pod.co/ACE-cast-nation, and obviously Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all those good places. Give us a follow, give us a like. Most of all, if you really would like to support the channel and support the show, subscribe to youtube.com/ACEpodcastNation. Danny, it's been a pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Si.
And we'll see you next week. See you
guys
next
do it.
week. And we'll be back for a retro show next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Different.
It's going to be good.